Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1 was insane, with crazy twists that have been set up for numerous seasons finally being paid off to shocking events we never saw coming. In the first ever Stranger Things video on Jade's Corner, we're going to recap all the important events that happened in Volume 1 of Season 5 and discuss the ending. If you're a fan of Stranger Things and are excited to see the rest of the final season, consider subscribing to the channel, as I'm going to be covering the final season of Stranger Things the entire month leading up to the series finale on New Year's Eve. Remember, when you subscribe, hit that bell icon to set those notifications to all so that you never miss a future upload. With that all said, let's hop into the world of Stranger Things and go over the events that transpired in Season 5, Volume 1. This episode opens in a flashback to November 12, 1983, showing Will Byers inside Castle Byers in the Upside Down. A Demogorgon captures an unconscious Will and delivers him to Vecna. Vecna then infects him, declaring their plan can finally begin and that they will do beautiful things together. The story then jumps to November 3rd, 1987, in a heavily militarized quarantine Hawkins, and the Wheeler and Byers families begin living together while Robin and Steve host a morning squawk radio show. Dustin, Mike, and Will face harassment at school but remain determined to clear Eddie Munson's name. Secretly, Eleven is training with Hopper and Joyce, though she is the subject of a military search. Meanwhile, the group uses coded radio messages from Robin to coordinate the crawl, their operation to search the Upside Down, one section at a time, via the Max Z gate to confirm if Vecna is truly defeated. Despite over 30 crawls, they have no proof, leading to doubt since neither Will nor Eleven can sense the creature. Personal tensions are high, and after Dustin is beaten by bullies and misses the operation, Jonathan steps in to track Hopper. The crawl begins, and after Hopper enters the Upside Down, his truck crashes. At the radio station, Will collapses, sensing Vecna's return. Hopper is injured and spots a Demogorgon, which Will confirms is heading towards Nancy's house. The episode then ends with a massive breach. The young Holly Wheeler watches as a Demogorgon breaks through the ceiling into her room, signaling the monster's arrival in the right side up. This episode had an insane ending and had me freaking out like crazy because I was hoping the Demogorgon wouldn't take Holly, but with the title of episode 2, of course, I knew the inevitable was coming. Overall, I thought this was a decent premiere. It's not my favorite of the bunch, but I still thought it was solid nonetheless. This episode picks up immediately with the threat introduced in the cliffhanger to episode 1, a Demogorgon crashing into the Wheeler home. Holly and Karen Wheeler flee into the bathroom, hiding under the bath water as the creature breaks through the door. Ted Wheeler enters the fray only to be thrown through a wall when he attempts to fight the Demogorgon with a golf club, and Karen manages to injure the monster by smashing and stabbing it with a wine bottle, but the Demogorgon ultimately seizes Holly, and then Nancy and Eleven arrive, finding a heavily injured Karen, and realizing that Holly has been taken, Nancy urges Eleven to pursue the Demogorgon, and Eleven immediately rushes in to a nearby portal to the Upside Down. In the Upside Down, Eleven encounters Hopper, who is frustrated by her presence, knowing the military is hunting her down. Eleven insists she followed her instincts, believing Holly is the key to finding Vecna, and after she tends to his wound, Hopper admits his fear of losing her, referencing his deceased daughter. They quickly track the Demogorgon to a large impenetrable wall, which the monster and Holly have passed. Back in Hawkins, Dr. K's soldiers review CCTV footage of the attack, confirming Eleven's involvement and connecting her to the incident. At the hospital, Mike Wheeler and Nancy regret not telling their parents the truth sooner about what's going on in Hawkins, and Mike theorizes Vecna targeted Holly because of a vision he once showed Nancy, or perhaps because the abduction is suspiciously timed near the anniversary of Will's disappearance. Lucas suggests that Holly's imaginary friend, Mr. Whatsit, might be a real key to her location, and elsewhere, Steve and Jonathan argue about Nancy's relationship and their ongoing competition for her, but they cease fighting when an injured Dustin Henderson arrives. The remaining group meets at the radio station, where Will Byers reveals his earlier vision felt like he was in a Demogorgon's mind, suggesting his connection to the Hive remains active. Robin proposes using Will as a human receiver to locate Vecna, but Joyce staunchly refuses, and the kids then trick Joyce and take Will into the woods, where he previously had a vision. Robin pulls Will aside to ask if he saw her with Vicky, but Will denies seeing anything. At the elementary school playground, Will has another vision, realizing his connection to the hive mind allows him to see through Vecna's point of view as the entity stalks its victims. He identifies the next target as Derek Turnbow. The mystery of Holly's imaginary friend is then solved when Mike and Nancy sneak into Karen's hospital room, and then Karen reveals Mr. Whatsit's real name is Henry, Vecna's human form that we fully explored the backstory of in Season 4. The episode concludes with a chilling scene in the mindscape where Mr. Whatsit, aka Henry Creel, welcomes Holly into his home, the Creel House. Overall thoughts on this episode: I thought the opening was fantastic. Karen protecting Holly while being drunk as hell was so dope to see, and I thought that they killed her off when Nancy came home and found her on the ground. Thank God she's still alive, but I think the worst is still yet to come in terms of character deaths. Something Stranger Things has struggled with for years throughout every season, and it's probably my biggest criticism of the show overall. The lack of main character deaths has been a frustrating aspect of the show, as they tend to really only kill antagonists like Billy or one season side characters like Bob and Eddie, but I think this is probably the weakest episode of the season outside of the opening, if I'm being completely honest. This episode reveals Will Byers can now tap into the hive mind, sensing that Vecna's next victim is a child named Derek Turnbow, as mentioned in the last section of the recap. The group executes a high-risk plan. Robin, Erica, Micah, and Lucas successfully trap the entire Turnbow family using a tranquilized pie and relocate them, covering their heads with pillowcases to hide them from Vecna. The rest of the team sets a trap for the Demogorgon at Derek's house, aiming to shoot it with a tracker to find Holly. The trap works initially, and Nancy successfully tags the monster. However, the plan is compromised when Derek wakes up, removes his pillowcase, and exposes their location to Vecna, forcing the Demogorgon to double back towards the Turnbow's hiding spot. Meanwhile, in the Upside Down, Hopper and Eleven are ambushed by the military, who use the Hedgehog, a sonic weapon that acts as El's kryptonite, after Hopper disables the weapon and they capture a soldier named Akers. Eleven enters his mind and she traces the sonic energy to a secured metal door in a military lab and concludes the military is holding Vecna or another superpowered being and using them as a weapon. In the mindscape, Holly Wheeler is being held by a seemingly perfect Creel house by Henry Creel. When she follows a decoy note into the Forbidden Woods, she is led to a figure in a cave. Holly flees but looks up to find a conscious Max Mayfield staring down at her. Now, this was a great episode and I thought it was really entertaining from start to finish. My favorite sequence had to be everything going on with the Turnbow residents, which was a focal point of this episode. Derek is hilarious and one of the show's best supporting characters that they've introduced thus far, and is a fantastic addition to this season. The stuff with the gang taking on Vecna's Demogorgon in the Turnbow house was excellent as well. And the ending, Max finally returns, bro. That had me going crazy. The final episode of Volume 1 opens with the Demogorgon tracking Derek Turnbow to the barn. The monster opens a rift and Steve's group drives their car into the portal to give chase in the Upside Down. Will Byers sees a vision of Holly Wheeler suspended in Vecna's web, confirming the villain is collecting 12 children as perfect vessels. The team's pursuit ends when their car crashes into an impenetrable wall in the Upside Down. Dustin Henderson uses radio signals to determine this wall forms a complete circle centered on the Hawkins lab. Meanwhile, Mike Wheeler suggests a new plan. use Derek to go undercover at the military base where Dr. K is rounding up the children under the guise of protection. In the Upside Down, Max Mayfield reveals to Holly that after her quote-unquote death, she woke up trapped in a world made of Henry Creel's memories, and she explains that she's been surviving by following Lucas's music and hiding in a memory the villain fears, the cave, her only safe spot. At the Max Z base, Hopper and Eleven sneak into the lab. Eleven is crippled by a sonic weapon, the Hedgehog once again, and Hopper attempts a sacrifice, but the weapon fails and the vault unlocks to reveal that 8, aka Kali from Stranger Things Season 2, is alive but unconscious. At the same time, Will, Mike, and Joyce are arrested after Derek's cover is blown during the evacuation attempt. Vecna then steps through a portal and completely annihilates the remainder of the military, eventually confronting Will after dealing with his mother and friends. Before he departs, he delivers a chilling message. He targeted Will first to learn how to build his hive mind. As Vecna throws Joyce aside, Will remembers Robin's words to stop being afraid. His eyes roll white and he suddenly uses a power similar to Vecna's, and Will suspends all 3 attacking Demogorgons in mid-air, snapping their bones and dropping them lifelessly. The episode ends as Will, with blood running from his nose, collapses with his power fully awakened. This was probably one of the best episodes in Stranger Things ever. Those last 25 minutes were spectacular. From Vecna's Darth Vader moment, the Demogorgon horde obliterating the military, number 8's unexpected return, Vecna revealing his ultimate plan, and Will's awakening. This is what I would call a perfect episode of television, and in my opinion is a top 5 episode of Stranger Things without question. That ending with Will locking in had me unbelievably hyped. The sequence at the military lab begins with Hopper enacting a desperate sacrifice. After being weakened by the sonic weapon, he pulls Eleven out of immediate danger and straps explosives to his chest, determined to destroy what he believes is the source of the threat. He tells Eleven he loves her before closing the vault door. However, the anticipated explosion never happens. Instead, the sonic weapon suddenly fails and the vault door unlocks. When Hopper and Eleven enter, they discover the astonishing truth. The military was not holding Vecna, but rather 8, Eleven's sister from Season 2. Unconscious and hooked to the facility's machinery, this confirms the military was actively using a powered individual as a weapon, instantly changing the nature of the enemy the heroes faced. Simultaneously, at the Max Z base, Vecna makes his full, terrifying emergence, stepping through a portal and demonstrating his formidable power by tossing soldiers aside. Focuses entirely on the suspended Will Byers, confirming the central element of his master plan. He targets 12 children as perfect vessels, who he describes as fragile and easily molded. Vecna then delivers the chilling revelation that Will was the first, the one Vecna used years earlier to learn how to successfully build and expand his hive mind. After stating that some minds belong in his world, Vecna releases Will and retreats back into the Upside Down, but leaves behind 3 Demogorgons to immediately charge at Mike, Lucas, and Robin. As the 3 Demogorgons close in for the kill, Will remembers Robin's earlier words. The answers are within him, and he must stop being afraid of who he is, embracing his sexuality and love for Mike, even though he knows Mike will probably never ever see him in the same way. This emotional catalyst awakens a dormant power within him, and his eyes roll completely white, and he lifts his hand in the same gesture Vecna uses, exerting a powerful unseen force over the monsters. Will uses this ability to twist all 3 attacking Demogorgons, violently snapping their bones until they collapse lifelessly. This act is confirmed as a true power manifestation by the familiar side effect. Will falls to his knees, with a thin line of blood running from his nose, just like Eleven and Henry Creel after using their abilities, and Will's power is fully awakened, positioning him as a new major force, or sorcerer, in the fight against the Upside Down. And that's my recap and ending explained for Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1. Volume 2 releases on Christmas Day. But before that, we have a ton of predictions and theories to discuss. So if that sounds enticing, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay up to date on all things Stranger Things. This is Jay signing off, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
I'll see you soon.